Hi, my name is Micah McKay. Welcome to my podcast, Surviving the Pandemic. I'm here with
Liam McKay.
Rebecca Serini.
And we're here to answer questions about the pandemic. Before the pandemic started, my life was simple. I was a junior in high school going out about my daily life, like any other high school student. I had friends who I would hang out with at lunchtime or wave to in the hallway. My routine was to wake up, wash up, brush my teeth, brush my hair, and put it in a ponytail, then get dressed for school. My mom would then drive me to school in the morning and back in the afternoon. When I got home, I would make a snack, relax a little before doing my homework. When the pandemic began, I was in a hospital, soon to be discharged. I learned about the pandemic when I was using my phone, using Instagram. I actually heard it on the television in my room. I remember the news report was about a case in Rochelle where I live, and it was the first COVID-19 case in our state. Not only that, the first hotspot quarantine zone that included my high school, and that led to a school shutdown. My life during the pandemic was mostly spent at home doing distance learning from my junior year and senior year of high school, and freshman year at college too. I remember there weren't any written exams during my junior and senior year in high school. I was so happy about that. I was scared at first that I might get COVID when I was outside. I always wore a mask. I didn't take any chances. I wouldn't say my life was easy during the pandemic. I had mixed feelings about it. I was happy and sad at the same time. I was happy that I didn't have to go back to school in person, but I was sad that I couldn't see my friends in person. That was really tough.
Alright, so during the pandemic, I remember making a lot of adjustments. Before the pandemic, I would take, a 6:30 bus every day to get to school, so I'd have to wake up at 5, do all that, getting ready in the morning. But when the pandemic started and we were out of school, I didn't really have to do that anymore, which was, I guess, a good adjustment. I only had to get up 30 to 40 minutes before class, do whatever I had to do in the morning. And, that was a very welcome change. In terms of, other adjustments, I remember, needing to make sure my room was cleaner than usual, because, Zoom, you had to, put your camera on, so you had to make your background look a little presentable. So, I had to do that. And also, I had to make sure that there are no distractions in my house either. So making sure that people were quiet while I was doing my classes. And there was a lot of adjustments. And I remember throughout the day, definitely schoolwork was something that, I still had to do. But I also and this was not necessarily a good thing, but a lot more screen time, things like streaming services and stuff like that. But I did try to make an effort to also get more time outside. Like I said earlier, I did go to the park relatively often, because it was, you didn't want to be cooped up in your house all day. I did try to go to the park, and when I did go outside, I was wearing a mask, especially at the beginning, because you didn't really know much about how the virus was spread. Eventually, as pandemic continued and I went to the park, I took off my mask, knowing that knowing more how the transmission worked. But yeah, that was definitely a something that took time as I learned more and more about how the virus worked.
When in-person school was back in session, I felt happy, relieved to have a community again and to socialize again. And I had started going to WCC, so I met a lot of new people, made some new friends, and after being in quarantine for like 2 years, it felt really good to get back to normal life and to create new experiences. Once the vaccinations came out, I was super happy to get one. I was relieved that they had kind of found a solution. I knew that it wasn't going to be perfect and that life wasn't going to immediately go back to normal. And I still ended up getting COVID after I got vaccinated too, but it wasn't as bad, I think. And I had some peace of mind knowing that medically I was protected from what could have been a lot worse for me. And yeah, I was just relieved. I was happy to get them. Yeah. After the pandemic had officially ended, I guess, I felt like a mature, newer version of myself, I think. Being isolated for a few years and really having to be happy with just being alone, I think made me change in a lot of ways and like grow up in a lot of ways. So I was happy once we got to socialize and once we got to communicate with people and have a sense of community again. I felt new and I felt fresh and ready to jump into new life. And I was older, so I was ready to focus on my career, focus on making art that is coming from a newer mind for me.